Taiwan seals new arms deal with Washington worth $120 million. Ties between Taiwan and Slovakia deepen with a new agreement and a message of solidarity. Prepare for chaos. The UN issues a chilling warning over the crisis in Ukraine. And we check out the new space that's on track to become the new hub for Taiwan's performing arts community. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. The US and Taiwan have agreed on a new arms deal. The $120 million package will cover spare parts for naval ships and technical assistance. This is Taiwan's fourth arms deal with the US since the Biden administration took office. The Foreign Ministry says it's a sign of deepening cooperation.
同时，我们会持续深化台湾跟美国紧密友好的安全伙伴关系，来共同捍卫以规则为基础的国际秩序，来促进台湾海峡以及整体印太区域的和平、稳定跟繁荣。
A visiting Slovak official says he hopes the European Union will learn from Russia's invasion of Ukraine and wake up and stand with democracies like Taiwan. Slovakia and Taiwan are deepening ties. On Wednesday, they signed an agreement on judicial cooperation, the first deal of its kind between Taiwan and an EU country. Louise Watt reports.
A symbol of ever closer ties between Taiwan and Eastern Europe. A new interparliamentary group between Taiwan and Slovakia. Slovakian lawmakers visiting Taiwan for a week drew a parallel between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Chinese threats to annex Taiwan.
We should stick together, and if we are unified, then the enemy or the potential aggressive state will see that it needn't to be such an easy task.
The deepening political exchange builds on already solid economic ties.
Taiwan is one of the biggest investors in our country. We have three large companies, and there may be more large companies coming as the new suppliers for the automotive industry.
It's only 6 months since the Slovak delegation last visited Taiwan. And last year, Taiwan's Foreign Minister, Joseph Wu, led a delegation to Slovakia, as well as to other countries in Central and Eastern Europe. Changes of governments in the region, including Slovakia and Lithuania, have helped foster closer ties, according to Marcin Jezewski, an analyst for the Taipei office of the European Values Center for Security Policy, a Czech think tank.
A political change in recent years has given rise to center and center-right liberal parties that make very clear appeals to the protection of fundamental values, fundamental Western liberal values, which also has ramifications for how these governments shape their respective foreign policies. And this is why Taiwan, as a like-minded democracy, emerges as a likely and preferred partner.
Jezewski also says that China has invested considerably less in Central and Eastern Europe than Western Europe, helping to explain why countries such as Slovakia might appear bolder in reaching out to Taiwan and wanting closer ties. And from Taiwan, which has few official allies, it's also a thumbs up. Ricky and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Absent from Thursday's events were two members of the Slovak delegation because they tested positive for COVID-19. Taiwan's foreign ministry confirmed the positive tests of Deputy Speaker Milan Norenček and Peter Ososki, chairman of the Slovakia-Taiwan parliamentary group. The ministry said the delegation's 10 members must take PCR tests every other day during their visit. Norenček and Ososki tested positive Wednesday evening, a day after meeting with President Tsai. Taiwan's foreign ministry said the pair are asymptomatic, but they won't be able to travel to Kaohsiung with the rest of the delegation. Of the many companies that have made Taiwan the global leader in semiconductor technology, one name stands out: TSMC. At its annual shareholders meeting on Wednesday, the world's largest contract chip maker set out its plans for the year ahead. Chair Mark Liu said, for now, the company has no plans to build factories in Europe. To discuss this more, I spoke to Ray Yang, director at the government's Industrial Technology Research Institute, or ITRI.
I think our European partners should not give up. Okay, I really believe that there is still a chance for our European partners, as Chairman Mark Liu, said yesterday. It is customer base also needs to be pushed up to economy scales. The EU or even Germany, there are a lot of very prestigious car manufacturer, and especially for the future car, they really needs TSMC's support. Japan government provide a lot of incentive to TSMC. So if EU can increase the incentive, I still think they have the chance to attract TSMC.
There are reports that TSMC will start mass producing the M2 Pro chip later this year using 3nm technology. What does this technology mean for our everyday lives?
Even the metaverse, there's emerging, more and more, ideas and emerging functions will support the metaverse moving. Okay, so actually, in order to make a metaverse to be realized, again, definitely increasing speed, very, very high speed, very, very energy efficient, very, very high bandwidth, and very large computing capabilities in order to enable all of the functions for metaverse. These need advanced technology nodes and the chip manufacturing capabilities.
What is it that makes TSMC the world's #1 chip maker? Could you tell our viewers?
It is because of their business model, very, very unique business model, to act as a pure foundry service provider. Okay, rather than Samsung and Intel, Samsung produce a chip, but they own their own Android phone. Okay, so Intel would like to do the foundry business, but they have their own CPU. So there is conflict of interest, okay, between the Samsung and the Intel and their customers. But TSMC, there's totally no this kind of problem. So everybody have built a mutual trust with TSMC.
Taiwan has confirmed a second case of a post-COVID condition that affects children called MIS-C. The 5-year-old came down with the illness after getting COVID in late April, but has since recovered. MIS-C, or multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, can manifest more than a month after children have recovered from the virus. It is a rare complication, but parents are being urged to look out for signs of the condition, including a persistent fever.
中间的这4项，它有腹泻、有呕吐、有皮肤出疹，也有这个结膜红，就是眼睛充血的一些情形。
Taiwan's President Tsai is set to deliver a major speech by video at this year's Copenhagen Democracy Summit in Denmark. It will be her 3rd virtual address to the summit. Other key speakers at the 2-day event are Lithuanian Prime Minister Ingrida Šimonytė, former US President Barack Obama, and Taiwan lawmaker Freddie Lim. This year's summit comes against the backdrop of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rising tensions on the Korean peninsula. To discuss this more, I spoke with Chen Quanting, CEO of think tank Taiwan Next Gen Foundation here in Taipei.
But Ukraine is facing these challenges during the wartime, in the wartime. So they are facing Russia's invasion. In the meantime, Russia's disinformation, manipulating media abroad and domestically. So when they are facing these problems, the world needs to provide help, assistance, or technical assistance to those who are fighting against authoritarian threats. This is why it's extremely crucial for all of the global leaders to get together to find a solution or provide a platform to find a solution for those who are fighting for freedom, for democracy.
And how big a focus do you think that Taiwan will be in the overall summit?
We are facing authoritarian threats all over the world. For European countries, they are facing Russian. For us, we are in Indo-Pacific, and we are facing China and other authoritarian regimes. They are equipped with latest technology. They have tremendous resources to disinform democracies around the world. Sometimes they would even intervene democratic countries' elections. So Taiwan has experience of dealing with these issues, dealing with these problems.
And Taiwan's representative this year is Freddie Lim. Could you tell our viewers why he's been selected?
Legislator Lim has a strong international profile, which afforded him broad recognitions in international democracy and human rights advocacy circles. For example, he actively contributes to the Taiwan Parliamentary Human Rights Commissions. Lim also brings the experience of working human rights-oriented civil society organizations, including his 5 years tenure as a leader of the Taiwan chapter of Amnesty International.
Taiwan's president has honored a French senator for his support of Taiwan. President Tsai Ing-wen presented Senator Joël Guerrier with the Order of Propitious Clouds at the presidential office on Thursday. Guerrier is vice chair of the Taiwan Friendship Group in the French Senate. He was instrumental in passing a resolution backing Taiwan's participation in international organizations last year. Guerrier is leading the third group of French lawmakers to visit Taiwan in the last 10 months. Taiwan's opposition party chair, Eric Chu, has opened a new representative office in the United States. The Kuomintang, or KMT, is hoping to re-establish closer ties with Washington and shed its pro-China label, as Bing Wang reports.
Unveiling the plaque, Taiwan's opposition party, Kuomintang, or KMT, officially reopens its representative office in the United States.
There was no voice of KMT in this world capital, U.S. capital, Washington, D.C. So this time we come back. We said, we are here, we are back.
The KMT first opened a U.S. office in 2000. After Chen Shui-bian, a member of the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, won the presidential election. It marked the first transition of ruling party since the KMT took power in Taiwan. The KMT then shuttered its office in the US after retaking the presidency in 2008. Due to the popularity of the KMT at the time, party officials believed that they would hold on to power, and they deemed the representative KMT office to be unnecessary. But after losing the presidency in 2016 and 2020, drops in approval ratings, and being called a pro-China party, the KMT hopes this office will present itself as a pro-US party.
We are the party pro-US, close to US, pro-democracy, pro-peace. We are not the party so-called anti-US party. It's totally wrong. We have to come back to tell everybody in Washington, in the world.
But Albert Chu, a professor of political science, says it will be difficult for the KMT to shed its pro-China label because many of its members have close ties with China.
I think one primary reason why KMT became a party deeply suspicious of U.S. Taiwan policy is twofold. Number one, too many KMT members who are business persons making money in China. The other one is that some supporters are empathetic with China because of their national identity.
Nevertheless, the KMT's office is located less than 2 miles away from the White House. And they hope to use their proximity to the U.S. president and other American government officials in forming closer ties between the KMT and the United States, or at least appear so. Isaiah Zhou and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, a new frontier in space exploration. NASA is moving down under. Details after the break.
let's taste test this. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Have you ever had frog?
Why did you tell me it was frog? I'm sorry, Mommy, if you're watching this.
Duck tongue, have you had these before?
I don't think so.
Tonight might be your lucky night. Okay, today might be your lucky day. Jason's Table, Shocked and Surprised, is on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. The United Nations is warning that disruptions to grain supplies caused by the war in Ukraine pose a mortal threat to much of the world. Ryan Kilpatrick has more.
Officials in the United Nations have been working to mitigate what they see as a looming food crisis due to the war in Ukraine. According to a new report from the global agency, millions of people worldwide could soon be pushed to the brink of starvation.
Food prices are at near record highs. Fertilizer prices have more than doubled, sounding an alarm everywhere. Without fertilizers, shortages will spread from corn and wheat to all staple crops, including rice, with a devastating impact on billions of people in Asia and South America too. This year's food crisis is about lack of access. Next year's could be about lack of food. There is only one way to stop this gathering storm in its tracks. The Russian invasion of Ukraine must end.
Ukraine is one of the world's biggest exporters of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. Exports that many developing countries rely on to feed their people. But shipments have been ground to a halt by Russia's invasion and its ongoing blockade of Ukraine's ports. Agriculture is the backbone of the Ukrainian economy, accounting for nearly a quarter of GDP and employing millions of people anxious to resume trading.
Так, Організація Об'єднаних Націй і генеральний секретар пан Гутерреш, ми з ним працюємо над цим. Ми сказали, що ми вважаємо, що повинні бути безпечні морські коридори, зроблені завдяки флоту тієї чи іншої держави західного світу, тим, кому Україна може довіряти.
On the other side of the Black Sea, Turkey is also looking to avert a global catastrophe, hosting talks of Russia to find a solution.
Birleşmiş Milletler, Rusya Federasyonu, Ukrayna ve Türkiye arasında oluşturabilecek bir mekanizma ve işbirliğini içeren bir plandan bahsediyoruz. Biz Türkiye olarak bu planı makul buluyoruz ve uygulanabilir bir plan olarak görüyoruz.
But this is no guarantee that both Moscow and Kyiv will agree to the same terms. Until then, the death and destruction incurred by Russia's invasion are poised to spill far beyond Ukraine's borders. Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Police in Berlin have arrested a man who drove his car into a crowd, killing a teacher and injuring 14 school children. Police are investigating whether this was deliberate or an accident. 6 children are in critical condition. The incident took place close to where 12 people were killed in 2016 after a man drove a hijacked truck into a Christmas market. 4 U.S. Marines have reportedly been killed after a military plane crashed in the desert in Southern California. 5 Marines were on board. The MV-22 Osprey came down about 50 kilometers north of the Mexican border. Military officials are denying claims that nuclear materials were on board. In March, 4 U.S. Marines were killed when an Osprey crashed during a NATO exercise in Norway. The Osprey is a tilt-rotor aircraft that can take off and land like a helicopter, but also fly like a plane. It is commonly used to transport soldiers and supplies. Artist Li Long has been using straw to create sculptures for 6 decades. His creations are sold as far away as Japan, and his dedication to the traditional handcraft has won him recognition from high places. Here's his story.
Chỉ tao nói kêu anh đi khăn ngủ hi chi à, ông cái nào bữa đây ăn sưng à, 啊，一寡老伙仔讲来小朋友，我教恁做草刀剑。这刀唔是安尼，我可会当做足长诶，做武术刀。啊，这会当调整，比圆月弯刀，还是迄个倚天剑、屠龙刀，啊，鸳鸯蝴蝶剑，我要盖多。啊，我们想玩就是要想办法，要动脑筋啊。啊，别人没有的，我们就要把它变成有啊。像我这么咧做这，别人有的我嘛有，啊，我有的别人无。啊，这是稻草，是神农大帝哦，赐给我们百姓的一种吉祥物啊。啊，日本人这是因传统300-400年来传统的文化，因每个祭典啊，是神社、商会拢爱用到的物件。青稞稻草，因为这吼，这扛起来较轻，吼啊，这伊这较软，较软，这做啊较好做，啊袂怀胎，啊袂怀孕，阮就爱挂起来啊。啊，所以他不能让它长稻米出来啊，所以他们日本政府不允许他们这样做啊，所以他们那边这个很少，就往我们台湾这边来，因为它可以让我发挥很多那个 idea 出来啊。因为人头脑如果不动的话，他会一直生锈，一直想不出什么东西出来。你越动的话，你越能够发挥你的潜力出来。啊，所以唔捌摸过人，咱这个是机安尼尔，那无啥。啊，结果若我变起来，佫无共啊，可以让它千变万化。你想做什么都可以把它塑造出来。猪啦、牛啦、鸡啊、鸟啊，我拢我都敢做。天上飞的、地下爬的、水中游的，我都有做。要难倒我，可能还很久哎。这边好。哎呀个！因为稻草这个物件，我为何这坚持讲一直要做的？把这个稻草这死板板的稻草，可以一直变化，一直变化，千变万化，让它做出各种不同的造型。啊，这稻草尔，你有法度做遐个物件，互因会当认识讲，咱的稻草足宝贵的。啊，我现在全部的心思都集中在这个稻草里面了。
A Taiwan theatre troupe has launched a new performance space in a historic Taipei building. After 16 years of performing without a fixed home, the 10-member troupe is looking forward to creating a new cultural hub. Rick Glauert reports.
A long-awaited performance by Taiwan's Shinehouse Theatre troupe, depicting the life of a sex worker with a painful past. The 16-year-old group behind the performance finally has a fixed home, launching a new, collective space for Taiwan's performing arts community in one of the capital's poorest neighborhoods.
小剧场决定要尝试成为台湾第一个和场馆共生的团队。
And this is the venue, an old warehouse in the capital built by a sugar company during Japanese rule of Taiwan, now transformed into a theatre that can seat 200 people. The COVID-19 pandemic and the difficulties of renovating a historic building delayed this opening performance by 2.5 years. But local artists want the building to be an innovative and collective cultural hub for the area.
他们所作所为不只是对小剧场，它关键的是这个社区，关键的是整个艺文界。
It's the end of a long road to build a fixed home for Shinehouse Theatre. But this space is also the beginning of a new creative journey for the capital's oldest district. Chris Ma and Rick Glauert for TaiwanPlus.
NASA has announced a plan to launch rockets from Australia for the first time in 25 years. 3 rockets are scheduled to blast off in the coming weeks to study the relationship between the Earth and the Sun. NASA says Australia's position in the Southern Hemisphere provides a view of phenomena that can't be seen from the north. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the project is important for younger generations.
This is a really exciting project. This is about not just the rocket launches itself, but it's about sending a message to younger Australians and indeed Australians of any age who might be looking at retraining for future careers of how important science is. We want the next generation to really look at STEM as part of Australia's future, and that's why this is an important project.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally today, we leave you with images of chefs performing tricks with dough during a pizza tournament in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The winner will represent Argentina at the 2023 World Pizza Championship in Italy. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.